Story 1. My wife is cheating, but I couldn't care less, and it's completely meaningless to me. Part 1. I, Alex, male, 29, have been married to my wife, Olivia, female, 29, for 5 years. We have been together for 7 years in total. We started together during my senior year of college and ran in the same friends group, although I had known her for 2 years at that point. She was the sister of a girl who went to the college. I was supposed to be a rebound. She had been in a relationship for the previous 3 years, even lived with the guy, who I was sort of friends with. They had issues before they moved in together, and needless to say moving in together to fix issues wasn't a good idea. Things got worse and he kicked her out of their apartment. 3 days later she was riding me on my couch. Olivia had been single for around a combined month's worth of time since she was a freshman in high school. All of her previous boyfriends had issues around sex, and my reputation preceding itself, she figured I'd be a good candidate to have some fun with given her newfound freedom. She had never had a fling, and just wanted to use me like a friend with benefits. I wasn't complaining, the sex was amazing, however, I had always kind of had a thing for her. I just never acted on it because she had a boyfriend. I was smitten from that first night on my couch. Fortunately, she was not very good at maintaining any form of her own boundaries. It took her a month to really kiss me, but other than that, any time I asked her on any type of date she said yes. We were spending every available night together. After 6 weeks she asked me to be exclusive with her. I agreed. After college I got my ideal job as a social media manager. My now wife had been doing secretarial work since she was 19 and had just landed a spot at a high school. The first 2 years of dating and engagement were really fun and we connected in every way. The whole thing was fast. We dated for a year, engaged a year, and got married. Our first year of married life was pretty good. We did a small vacation, bought a house, and had discussions on children. We agreed to not start until we were closer to 30. When COVID hit, I went to work from home. While the buildings were closed and most staff at home, the secretaries were still working in building. It was during this time that we began to drift apart. I just found the whole situation to be pretty easy. I was still doing my job from the comfort of my basement office. I found keeping the house clean was a breeze with it just being the two of us and her being gone most of the day. With some extra time on my hands, I got really into GTA Online. It was my new hobby. I was playing quite a bit during that period of time. When Olivia would get home, I was usually just getting into the ideal playtime. I tried including her in it but she wasn't very interested in my new hobby. Since then I have expanded my variety of games, so I am online a fair amount of time each day. It was also during this time that some glaring communication issues became more and more evident. This problem has only gotten worse in the last 4 years since I went to work from home. For example, for nearly 3 years she has been telling me that I don't communicate with her. Which is not true. I tell her everything that happens to me, which isn't very much. I work at home and my main hobby is here at home. There really isn't that much to tell, so I don't really understand why this is an issue. I think she has finally come to understand this, as it hasn't been brought up for months now. This is just one problem we've been battling the last few years. There are other things she is always going on about as well, like that I don't care about her or support her. Which is ridiculous because I obviously do. I married her, wouldn't have done that if I didn't care. And even though I make way more than her now, I rarely splurge on myself. Instead I encourage her to get the things she likes. She buys a ton of shit every month. We could literally survive off my salary now. She chooses to work. I have no idea what she wants. I work full-time and do almost all the housework. Those are the things she largely nags me about. Anytime we try to talk about any of our issues though, it just feels like I am supposed to sit there and take it. She never wants to talk about any of the issues I see. She just tells me I'm being defensive and hijacking the conversation. Always telling me that I don't say anything until she brings something up, and then suddenly it's a floodgate of problems I have with her. It's not a floodgate and it's nothing new. It's the same problem. She never just outright says what she wants or what she means. I have told her so many times I'm not going to pick up on stupid hints and half the time I have no idea what she wants. She wants me to be vulnerable. What does that even mean? I'm not going to just randomly start crying. I think the biggest thing that shows me that she doesn't care about me or like me at all is complete lack of physical intimacy. Our sex life started to diminish right around the same time COVID hit. The frequency just kept dropping and has continued to over the last 4 years. I was the only one ever initiating. The rejections built up more and more. Eventually I just stopped trying. Most of the time I don't even come to bed anymore. Instead I just sleep on the couch down here in my office. Our problems aside, we've had some changes over the last few years. 3 years ago I switched jobs. I'm still a social media manager, I just jumped from the small company I was working at to a much larger corporation. I had lots of reasons. I liked the people I worked with before, but this was more money, better benefits, and 100% work from home. My old company was planning a hybrid situation once COVID restrictions began relaxing. Olivia also switched jobs 2 years ago and became a secretary at another large company. About 6 months ago, a new entry-level guy, Asher 23, began working at Olivia's company. At this same time she got a new iPhone. Like usual, I set her phone up for her. However, I had been suspecting that she was talking badly about me to her mother and sister. It just seemed like their overall mood towards me had soured. So, I am not proud of this, but while I was setting up her phone I also put some different types of spying apps on it and synced everything into the cloud, which I then synced to my tablet. I did see her complain to her sister about our marriage. Her sister never really bashed me, just gave her advice. A month ago though, is when I started to see her message with Asher. It started off as just friendly office talk. Quickly that turned into innocent personal talk. They would discuss books they liked, TV shows, hobbies, and so on. They would do this for hours at a time. It definitely had me thinking something was going on, but at the same time if she just had a friend I figured it would be good for her, and keep her off my ass at least some. The last 2 weeks I have noticed she was in a better mood overall. That is also when their conversations took a steep turn into the inappropriate. It was quick too. They went from just discussing a love of Hunger Games to talking about what they wanted to do to each other in a single night. It only kept escalating from there, and this past Wednesday they met outside of work for the first time. She gave me the dumbest excuse too. Telling me she had to work late. She typically works 8:30 to 5 p.m., and she wasn't sure how long she would have to work past 5 p.m. Even if I didn't know what she was up to, this would still be a red flag. She works under a very high up in the company, and he is literally the sweetest old man. I have met him twice, and she has never said one bad word about this guy. So for him to suddenly require her to work for an undetermined amount of time past her normal hours, after 2 years in which she was never asked to do extra, or stay late, was a red flag in itself. She told me that on Monday, and I decided I was just going to play it cool. See what happens. I didn't want to burst her bubble and have her backtrack with all that "it was never physical" crap. Wednesday came, she didn't get home until around 8:15 p.m. and immediately hit the shower. Normally she likes to snack first, work out, or sit down and scroll on her phone for a half hour. She tried to come down to my office and talk to me, but I just ignored her. I knew what she did and I wasn't interested in easing her conscience. I actually think I inadvertently did though, as she seemed to relax more just before she left. I guess the thing that is throwing me off is, I don't really feel any which way about her cheating. I feel like I should be pissed or hurt, but I'm just meh. I can't really explain it. Later that night they exchanged a few messages, but she was very short in response and was giving off the vibe that she didn't want to talk with him. That changed the next day and they talked a lot more, including discussing how amazing the night before had been. Olivia told him that she was going to tell me that late Wednesdays was going to be a regular thing going forward. She did just that yesterday. I am genuinely happy about this. This wasn't a one-off situation. She is having a full-blown affair and I can prove it. She had no power over me now. I don't care what she is doing, so if she is trying to hurt me, she has failed. Now I can get out of this marriage and not be the bad guy. I've always assumed she would paint me negatively if we ever divorced. Now she can try, but at the end of the day, she cheated. I know I have let myself go a little bit physically, and of course there are things I could improve on, but everyone does. That doesn't mean it's okay to go out and cheat. If you're that unhappy, go out and get a divorce first. I was planning on spending this day researching divorce attorneys. Olivia came into my office about 20 minutes ago and asked me to take her on a hike and picnic. I don't know what she is getting at. I could see the shock on her face when I agreed to go. I'm debating on whether or not to drop the bomb on her while we're out there or wait until we get back. I half expect she will ask for a divorce. Part 2. I, Alex, didn't end up saying anything during the hike. Neither did my wife, Olivia. It was actually a really nice day. We hiked, we joked, we talked. It was like being on a first date. She had packed a picnic filled with my favorite snacking foods. I just kept expecting her to ask for a divorce or come clean about the affair and beg for forgiveness. It didn't happen. When we were done, we drove home. When we got home, I went down to my office and started up a game. She went and showered. I was sitting there playing when she walked in and said, "I'm ordering takeout from the Japanese place, then I'm going to watch Abigail. I would like it if you watched it with me, but you don't have to if you are busy. Either way, what do you want to eat?" I told her. She left the room, and I went back to my game. I was planning on just gaming through the night. I had already missed a lot of time going out with her during the day. Then I started feeling guilty about not watching the movie with her. I ended up leaving my game when she came back with the food. We ate and watched Abigail together. When we were done eating, she moved over closer and we cuddled on the couch together. I couldn't even remember the last time we had a day or night like that one. The next day on Sunday I was gaming, and I just kinda started to feel bored with it. I went into our home gym, if you want to call it that. It's a treadmill and set of dumbbells going up from 5 pounds to 50 pounds. I worked out for the first time in probably 3 years. I went back to gaming afterwards, but it did feel good. On Monday, when she got home, I came back upstairs and asked her how her day was. We ended up talking for 2 hours about random stuff like work and what's going on with her friends. She made us both dinner and picked out a new show for us to binge. We didn't make it but halfway through episode 2 and we were getting it on right there on the living room couch. We hadn't had sex in at least 5 months at this point. Well, I guess that's only true for me. Tuesday was much of the same. I had no idea what was going on, but she was putting real effort into our relationship, and in return I began to do the same. When Wednesday rolled around, I wondered if she would work late, or not. I monitored her messages during the day, and while they are few and far between when they are at work, the ones that were there did indicate she intended to go to his place that night. Which is exactly what she did. For the 2 hours or so she was there, I sat and wondered. I wondered why it didn't bother me. It made no sense. I should be very angry that she is banging some other guy literally right at that moment. It didn't though. I don't want to give the wrong idea. I also got no pleasure or excitement from the knowledge either. I felt nothing. My feelings were literally no different than if she were out getting her nails done, or at Starbucks having a coffee with a friend. When she got back home after that second time, I was going to confront her. I had no doubt about what transpired. His graphic text to her on her way home really didn't leave much to the imagination. Like the previous week, she went straight to the shower upon arrival. I waited in the bedroom for her to come out. Olivia walked out into the room wrapped in her towel. I had a somber look on my face. I kept thinking about how great the previous few days had been, but I still needed to confront her. When I saw her though, she looked literally amazing, and actually happy. I was so used to her sulking. I had noticed this change slowly after her affair started. She was much more like the Olivia I had fallen in love with 7 years ago. When she looked at me, her face turned to concern, actual affectionate concern for me. She approached quickly, put her hand on my back and asked me what was wrong in a sweet voice. I looked at her. I actually felt a well of tears begin to form, but I pushed that down. I decided not to say anything. I told her I had a rough day with work and just needed some reassurance. She loved me with some shoulder rubs and we talked about it. I got up and went to get her some food I had prepared earlier. As I was leaving, she said, "You know, all those times I told you I wanted you to open up to me or be vulnerable? This is what I meant. You don't have to face everything alone. I want to be part of your life." I nodded and left. After that night, I started to really think about our relationship, and just about myself as a whole. Ever since COVID hit, I really haven't done anything. I barely talked to my parents. I had lost connection with all of my friends. I was horribly out of shape, especially for a guy who had always been the fit guy. I decided if she was going to put effort into our relationship, then I should as well. I began to look into some relationship books, and I also designed myself a workout plan. All of that was almost 6 months ago now, and I can report I don't think I have been happier than I am now. I really enjoy the routine of our lives. Sunday and Friday are do your own thing nights. On Mondays and Tuesdays we hang out around the house with each other. One day she picks what we watch, the other day I pick. Wednesday is when she works late. I have reconnected with some friends and we have a weekly D&D night. I had never played before, but I've gotten really into it. They are all seasoned players, but I am coming along. Typically I am also out later than she is, which I prefer. Thursday and every other Saturday are date nights. We usually just go to a movie or dinner on Thursday. Saturday we do something fun, like hit a museum or go hiking. On the other Saturday is for us to do our own thing on our own. I sometimes go out on these days, but usually this is where I do my gaming. I barely play through the week now and have gotten into pretty good shape by replacing it with working out. She could be doing any number of things on these days. Sometimes she is with Asher. I get annoyed sometimes because she lies to me about where she is going. I just smile and nod, but I know what she is actually doing. She also uses these days to visit family or just have some alone time. I know what everyone is going to say. How can you be okay with her cheating? I don't have a good answer. It just doesn't bother me. I had some person reach out to me on my last post and tell me they think I might be poly. I just don't think that's the case. I have no interest in pursuing anyone else. For whatever reason, I am just indifferent to the fact of her infidelity. I also really want to stress the indifferent part. I've had so many in the comments imply that I get off on this. I don't. I feel no excitement, no pleasure, no jealousy, no embarrassment. This might be different if it were public knowledge, but it's not. I still hope that the affair just ends. If it does, I'll never say anything, and we can just go about the rest of our marriage. I know at some point I'm going to have to force it to stop. We will want kids eventually, and I am only doing that if we can be 100%. In the meantime, I'm just going to keep enjoying my life. Part 3. Before I, Alex, now 31, get into the problem, I'm going to give a quick update on what the last year and a half since my last post has been like. It's been great. We have really reconnected as a couple. We've been on a few vacations, I am spending more time with friends and family, and our communication has never been better. She, Olivia, now 31, is still seeing Asher, 25, and still lying about it. I pay very little attention to that. I haven't looked at her messages with anyone in probably the last year. Honestly, I don't know how she keeps up with it. I figured out from their messages, and assuming they are still going like this, that she sleeps with Asher 1 to 3 times a week. I know from first-hand experience she sleeps with me 3 to 5 times a week. That does not include the random messing around we do. Now I don't want it to seem like we don't still have arguments and disagreements. We fight a little bit, some of our old issues creep back in there sometimes. The difference is now we talk them out, we get over them faster, and we show each other respect when we share our feelings. Our current issues began when I noticed that my wife had been on the phone quite a bit with a friend of hers, Cody, female, 31. After the 3rd or 4th consecutive day of her being on the phone with this friend for upwards of an hour, I finally had to ask what was going on. Cody just figured out that her husband, Channing, male, 32, was having an affair for the last 3 months. They have been married for 10 years. Making matters worse, his affair partner is Cody's 19-year-old first cousin, Michaela. I went back and looked through Olivia's messages with Cody, and unless she has said it over the phone, Olivia has not let Cody know that she is having an affair. Everything would have been fine if I could have kept my dumb mouth shut. Olivia went into this tirade about how awful Channing was for being an adulterer. I was shaking my head with a dumb grin on my face when she noticed. Olivia kinda snapped, "What you don't agree with?" I couldn't contain it and blurted out, "You're one to talk." Her whole demeanor changed, and she started to press me for what I was talking about. I at first tried to deny it and apologize. She wasn't having it, she just kept pressing me. That's when I told her that I knew about her affair with Asher. She asked me how long, and I said the entire time it's been going, back when it was just innocent messages about work. She asked me why I just let it go on, and I told her, because I didn't care. She completely broke down crying and ran into our bedroom at that point. She locked the door behind her. It was pretty late at night at this point. I was messaging her trying to get a response, trying to get her to talk to me about what just happened. She only sent me one message that read, "Please leave me alone, I need time." I slept on the couch in the basement for the first time in over a year. The next morning she left for work earlier than normal. I checked her messages. She contacted Asher that night and ended things with him. He was blowing up her phone trying to get answers, and she was blocking him on everything he tried. When she got home that night, I was waiting. She just looked at me and went into our bedroom. She locked the door behind her. I went to sleep on the couch again and awoke at around 1 a.m. She came in and laid down next to me and just cried. I held her for maybe 15 to 20 minutes while she just let it all out. She began apologizing profusely and self-deprecating. I told her to stop, that she wasn't all these horrible things she was saying. I knew, and I didn't say anything. I didn't think less of her and still loved her completely. She asked me how I knew, and I came clean about my surveillance apps. She was hurt by this but strongly conflicted. She was telling me she felt this intense invasion of privacy that she was having a hard time processing. At the same time, she was betraying me, and feels that she deserved this. I asked why she locked herself away for 2 days. She told me, "When you said, 'I don't care,' it just all flooded into me all at once. I spent years believing you didn't care about me. It was just too much at that moment." It was a crazy and emotional conversation, but we eventually fell asleep together on my couch. She took the next 2 days off and we went over everything that had happened in our relationship. We talked about how bad things got after COVID. My indifference and unwillingness to change. My surveillance of her phone. We talked about how much I have changed over the last couple years. We spent a huge amount of time going over her affair, more details than I actually cared to hear, which was surprising because I hadn't had even the slightest emotional response up until this point. I asked her why she started the affair, and she said because he paid attention to her, but also she assumed we would be divorcing. She loved the attention and validation, especially after years of being ignored. She remembers she would try to get me to do things with her, even things that I used to like. I would usually turn her down, and on the rare occasions that I didn't, it was always like I wanted to hurry through it so I could get back home and get back on my games. She was totally right about my behavior at that time. I should also say she wasn't trying to justify her behavior, just explained to me what she was thinking at the time. After she slept with him for the first time, she knew we needed to divorce. She got this idea for one last test, to see if our relationship was even remotely salvageable. That was when she invited me on the hike and picnic. She never thought in a million years would I agree to go. When I did, she was shocked, but also figured I'd be trying to make it quick. Then I didn't, and we had a wonderful day. She thought she should continue to make an effort, and all of a sudden I was responding and making an effort myself. I interjected during this part and asked, "Why, after everything got better between us, did you keep up with the affair?" She held nothing back in her responses. "I was just selfish. I liked having it all and didn't want it to stop. I actually feel bad for stringing him along. I am pretty sure he is in love with me." I cut in once more. "And how did you feel about him?" "Olivia? I definitely have feelings for him, but not like with you. I guess you could call it love-like, but really what I loved was the attention, and I didn't want to give it up. Once I had you back, and we were really enjoying each other again, I knew I should end things, but I didn't want to. I was spending time with the man I loved, and that meant a ton to me, but I was also selfish, and allowed this other person to shower me with attention. I used all the cliched justifications to myself. Coming clean will just hurt, Alex. I'm in too deep to stop. I deserve it, and so on. I asked, "Did you ever feel guilty?" "Olivia? All the time, but having it all was more important to me." I responded, "Did you have it all?" She continued, "In my mind I did. If I'm being totally open, yeah, I think I did. I had you, and we were enjoying each other more than we had since we were dating. I had my space and free time, then I also had this guy who wanted nothing more than to shower me with attention. You were both so different, I liked sleeping with both of you. We were back to our wild, kinky, crazy stuff that you know I'm into, and he was the opposite. Simple, attentive, kind of sensually vanilla. Not that we aren't so passionate, but it was just different." I was pretty worn out after this conversation, and we had several more over the weekend. It was Sunday afternoon, and Asher was still trying to get a hold of Olivia. I told her she should call him, and give some sort of closure. She fully agreed. When she called, she put it on speaker and I remained silent, just listening. She explained to him that I had found out about the affair, but not that I knew the whole time. That she was committing fully to her marriage and we were going to work through all of our issues. She admitted to me that after things got better she stopped talking about our marriage to him. He begged her to reconsider and said he loved her. You could tell that he really did. He truly believed through all of this that they would end up together, and had bought into the idea that she was just waiting for the right time to divorce me. I kind of felt sorry for him. As she tried to reassure him, and convince him that he needed to move on, he began to get a bit confrontational. Eventually he made a veiled threat at telling me everything. She told him that I already knew all about it and that she had come completely clean. She quickly ended the conversation after this and blocked him once again. The next week while Olivia was at work I heard a knock on the door. It was Asher. I stepped out to talk to him. I wasn't worried about a physical confrontation. I've got 3 inches and probably 40 pounds on the guy. He just started showing me evidence of their affair. He seemed a little manic. I told him to stop. I tried to be as empathetic as possible, but honestly didn't really care if he was upset. I told him I always knew about their affair and he could just save it. I figured it out when it started. I just didn't say anything or stop her because I didn't care. He was dumbfounded, and just turned and left. I told Olivia what happened and she went into a bit of a doom spiral. That's kind of been the norm the last few weeks. I am getting a little worn out from it. She got us some recovering from infidelity books and we've been reading them together, because she thinks we should. The thing is, it's all ass backwards. Like I'm the betrayed partner and she is the wayward partner, yet I spend all the time trying to reassure her. She has these huge crashes and triggers, and I'm the one trying to anticipate this stuff. She wants to talk, and check in on me, and make sure I'm fine, but I processed all this a long time ago. It's old news to me and I'm ready to get back to our routines. I have missed my last 3 D&D Wednesdays, and didn't go to the fights last weekend even though that night had been planned for 2 months. I'm trying to be a good partner here, but the irony of the situation is not unnoticed. I'm thinking of putting in some hard boundaries in regards to affair talk. I am also pushing her to come clean to her sister. I need someone else to shoulder the burden of keeping Olivia together. Olivia and her sister, Cam 34, have always been really close. I think in the long term we will be fine. I just needed to vent through this rough patch. Part 4, it's been a long year, and was a good year up until very recently. The first few months post-affair were rough. After everything came to light, Olivia, 32, had a really hard time coming to terms with her own infidelity. I, Alex 32, was ready to move past it. As I stated in my last post, I had processed all the feelings around it a long time ago. I made it a rule that she was only allowed a fair talk 5 times a week. Then she had to wait until Monday for her week to reset. On top of that, I said I was not going to miss any more D&D Wednesdays. She agreed to this but was concerned with what she was going to do on Wednesday since I usually don't get home until midnight or 1 a.m. I told her to tell her sister everything that has happened. She actually listened to me, and while her sister was mad and disappointed in her, after the initial shock wore off, she has been someone else for my wife to lean on. There were still triggers and setbacks after this, but it was a lot more manageable of a reconciliation. We got back to a regular routine and all was going well. Olivia ended up joining an actual yoga class on Wednesdays. She has been doing yoga for years but usually did videos at home. Everything was fine until we got served last week. Asher was suing both my wife and myself on the grounds of emotional duress and lost wages. He is stating that my wife led him on for 2 years and manipulated him into believing that they would have a life together. He is also seeking damages for lost wages. According to his complaint, he passed on a job offer to another company that would have paid him more, and a promotion within the company that would have moved him to another city. He claims he stayed for Olivia under the impression she was going to divorce and begin an official relationship with him. My wife was ready to contact and confront Asher, but I told her we could not do that. We needed to get a lawyer and we needed to do so immediately. We hired Reed Bomer out of Milwaukee. He specializes in civil court cases. At our consultation he told us not to worry about this too much. There is no way a judge isn't going to throw this out. He told us there are around 6 states that have laws regarding alienation of affection. Wisconsin is not one of them, but in those states that do, these laws allow a betrayed spouse to file a lawsuit against the cheating spouse's affair partner. These lawsuits are rare and often don't go anywhere, however there have been a few big ones. He said, "What we have here is the opposite of that, and this guy has some serious nerve. To imply that he is the victim, when he knowingly pursued a relationship with a married woman, he isn't going to get any sympathy from a judge. I'm surprised he found someone to represent him." He would have an answer filed in regards to this complaint this week. After which he said he would file a motion to dismiss the case. Overall, the consultation has me feeling better. Our lawyer really makes it seem like this will probably be over before it even starts. I'm just a little on edge. I do not want this getting out. It's one thing for Cam to know, but that's about as far I want to include other people into our personal lives. I really just want to find Asher and kick the shit out of him. I won't, but I want to. Olivia has been a mess since we got served. Even after meeting with the lawyer, she doesn't seem to be any better. After a year of getting things back in order, this is the last thing we need. Hopefully, it does go just like Reed says it will and the case will just be dismissed. Part 5. The Milwaukee County case of Asher Bigelow, Olivia Horn and Alex Horn continues on. Fuck me. The case was not dismissed in the pleadings phase of the case. I literally could not believe it when Reed told us. I asked how this was even possible. I mean, here is a guy that is basically a male homewrecker, and he is fucking suing me, and it wasn't thrown out? In what fucking world is he the victim here? I have never been so angry in my life. Reed says that the only thing he can think is going through that judge's mind is he is about to hear a case that has no precedents. Precedents are everything in the legal world, and when something new comes up it's kind of a big deal for judges and lawyers. Reed said since we brought this case to him he has been doing some research and he literally cannot find anything like it out there. He says if it's been brought before other judges they must have thrown it out. I asked, isn't that a precedent then? He explained, no, it's not officially a ruling. Those cases could have been thrown out for any number of reasons, like improperly filed paperwork. This case has all the T's crossed and the I's dotted. This is the kind of case that law school classes will study when they talk about frivolous or not. I am really trying not to take this out on Olivia. I can understand why she started the affair in the first place, and I made my peace with it a long time ago, but this has me so stressed out. I do not want to be known publicly for this. If this gets out I do not know what I will do. We entered into the discovery phase of the case. I guess I should have been looking at Olivia's messages with him that last year, and probably should have gone through them after everything came out. There are numerous times in which I love you was exchanged. Way more by him, but she did message him that a few times. There are times in which he point blank asks her when she is going to leave me, and she always responds with soon. She tells him she wants to be with him, just the timing is wrong. As soon as she gets enough of her own money saved up, all the old excuses cheaters who have no plan to leave their spouse use. It's literally bad dialogue out of an old rom-dram. I asked if she meant any of this and she said, "No, not any of it. After we began to work on our marriage, I never thought of leaving you. I just told him what he wanted to hear." I asked her, "Really? How could you do that?" She told me, "He was just my drug of choice, and I wasn't done using yet." I told her if she gets asked in court, do not repeat that sentence. I believe her. I think she just liked what this guy provided and didn't want to give it up. But fuck if this hasn't put us in a bad spot. She is also on administrative leave pending an investigation. Her boss got subpoenaed for a deposition as he is one of the higher-ups, and Asher is claiming that Olivia used her position as his secretary to influence against Asher. It is such a mess. On top of that, I am stated as being complicit in her efforts to undermine his career and damage his mental state. Apparently he's citing the fact that I knew about the affair the whole time as me being in on it and encouraged her to lead him on and waste years of his life. The fucker recorded both her closure phone call and our talk outside of my house. I am so paranoid about the local media jumping on this case. The last thing I want is everyone I know to be aware of her affair, or my knowledge of it the whole time. I'm literally checking the news websites 10 times a day. I'm not sure I can keep living like this. I try to be a rock for Olivia as I know she is taking this really hard. She rightfully blames herself for the whole fiasco, but I still love her and hate to see her hurting this much. Hopefully we can reach some kind of settlement before ever ending up in actual court. Part 6. Well, it's all over, and all the damage is done. We pushed for a settlement just to get this all to go away. Notably because we didn't want to go to court. Asher asked for a ridiculous number to settle and absolutely would not budge. That told me all I needed to know. He wasn't doing this for money, he was doing this for revenge and to embarrass us. There was no way any sane judge was going to rule in favor of the other man. I was right about that. The court case itself was rather short, all things considered. His lawyer presented their case. It was such a bullshit argument. He attempted to completely paint Olivia as some sort of manipulative dominatrix or something. Like she was trying to keep him as some sort of sex slave. They implied that she was purposely keeping him from advancing in his career even though they had no evidence of this, and he was offered a promotion that he turned down. Reed Bomer countered easily. It was obvious from their early messages that he pursued her and that she had made it known that she was married. Even though she did go along with the affair, he got nothing from the judge. The judge ruled in our favor and Asher went home with nothing. I guess the judge got to set the precedent on this one. Even though Asher lost the court battle, it appears he may have won the war. Weeks leading up to the case, the details ended up in the media. It started off just locally, but soon progressed to national media. It was just so goddamn preposterous of a case, of course it got national coverage. I have probably read every article on our case from just about every news outlet. The comments are always brutal. It seems most people have landed on the nickname, the Cuck of Oak Creek. It's just so embarrassing. I can get over the affair and still love my wife, but being known as that is just too much. I haven't been out in weeks. I stopped going to Wednesday D&D. Friends have called to offer support but I can't answer the phone. I will respond to texts, but have no desire to actually socialize. My parents, my family also know now. My dad has no sympathy, and keeps giving me unsolicited advice. I finally just blocked him the 5th time he told me I should have divorced the first time she texted another guy. That shit is just not helpful at all. Even if it was, I don't have a fucking time machine. Olivia had to resign from her job. They would have fired if she hadn't. We didn't need her income but I know she is upset. She liked working there. Asher had left shortly after their affair ended so that hadn't been an issue. She feels terrible, but unlike before I have no energy to console her. I hurt myself far too much. There was a noticeable rift at home soon as we got past the pleadings phase. She was trying to make up for it but was back to being a mess, even worse than after the affair ended. I just did not have it in me to be her rock. Our intimacy suffered hard as both of us had a lot of internal conflict. This led to some pretty heated arguments. At one point she even implied that the affair was my fault. She quickly tried to backtrack on that statement. I know she said it out of anxiety, but it still stung me pretty hard. I may not be the best guy in the world, and I especially wasn't then, but to imply that it was my fault was too far. I think we both hoped that the weeks after the case was over and the media spotlight gone, we would recover. That has not held true. If anything, we seem to be trapped in this frigid awkwardness in our own home. I can't forgive and I know it stems from my own embarrassment. I didn't ask for this, she chose to cheat, and if she just would have owned it and left me, and not tried to be a fucking cake eater, I would at least still have my dignity. I applied for and got a job in Hartford. I am moving. My employer, I'm sure, appreciates that. Once my identity got out, our social media responses started getting spammed with idiots making jokes at my expense. I also had Olivia serve divorce papers. It seems our marriage was strong enough to survive infidelity but wasn't strong enough to survive this. She has been begging me to reconsider. I was willing to listen to her until she tried to sell me on staying here in Oak Creek. I can't. I have to leave Milwaukee. I have to leave Wisconsin. I'll go be the only Bucks fan in Connecticut. I'm just giving her the house. I don't want it. She can sell it and we will call that alimony. I'm sure she will land on her feet when she is ready to make the effort. She still has her mom and sister, which is where she has been staying since I served her. I feel really terrible about all of this, but I know I can't go back, and I can't stay here. I start my new job in 2 weeks. I've got an apartment lined up and I'll make the trip a week early. I hate that it all ended like this. I do know one thing. If I ever have even the slightest chance to fuck over Asher Bigelow, I will do it. I will go out of my way to do it. He has made an enemy for life, and I will not be forgetting or forgiving ever. Story 2. Getting in my friend's wife's messy affair ended our 23 years friendship. Basic info: I am Ross, male, friends with Joyce, male, who is married to his wife Rebecca. They have been married for 7 years and we all are in our late 20s or early 30s. Now the story. I have been friends with Joyce since 3rd standard and we were best friends with each other for a long time till yesterday. We all have good careers and earn above average salaries. Joyce met Rebecca in college and have been inseparable since then and married 7 years ago. They were very much in love and nothing indicated there was anything wrong with Rebecca or their relationship. They dated for 5 years before marriage. Problems started 2 years into the marriage. Rebecca slowly became more withdrawn and focused more on her career than in relationship. But Joyce was still happy, but their sex life sucked because they had sex only 2 to 3 times in a month and not very exciting. All of this was narrated by Joyce. As time passed, things became more drastic. Rebecca started coming late from work, as late as 3 a.m., and sometimes didn't come all night from the office, saying she was exhausted staying at the hotel. Fights started increasing as Joyce became suspicious. Joyce wanted to focus more on relationships and wanted to get close with Rebecca as it was before marriage. Rebecca put in very little work, but Joyce put in much work. Date nights, gifts, parties, massages, cuddling, mini honeymoons. But Rebecca was still withdrawn. What was actually happening was Rebecca had started an EA with her married bossage coworker 1 year after marriage and first slept with him for promotion 2 years into marriage. But it became a full-blown affair from there on and it became seedy. She had all sex unprotected and twice became pregnant with AP's child but aborted both times. Joyce was oblivious to all this during both abortions and she said she was going on an international work trip. This was going on and my friend was still none the wiser until 3 months ago he snooped into Rebecca's phone and suspected an affair and came to know her text messages with her AP. He thought at the time it was only EA and confronted Rebecca. She first denied the affair, gaslighted him, trickle-truthed and first admitted to EA. When Joyce pulled up the divorce card and phoned the lawyer, she admitted to everything above. And then the nuclear bomb: she is 3rd time pregnant with AP's baby and wanted to show as if Joyce is the bio dad. Joyce is told to get ready to be a single mom until she aborted and then she confessed it was AP's baby. Joyce went into a deep depression and tried to commit suicide. I, along with his family members, convinced him otherwise and not to try it again. He agreed but was still a mess. Rebecca apologized and wanted reconciliation and not divorce. She agreed to abortion and cut off all contact with her AP and quit her job. Joyce wanted to give her one last chance as he still loved her very much. Until 3 days ago. Joyce lives with me for a few days when he becomes too depressed or gets triggered. So 3 days ago I went with Joyce to a nearby store to buy something. But we were caught off guard as we saw Rebecca there talking to someone male. Joyce informed me he is her AP. I immediately charged towards him and landed a good couple of punches, but he escaped. We berated Rebecca for talking to her AP again and started name-calling her. Rebecca ran outside, but we wanted full info, so we wanted full info and confronted her. She said she met him only to give him closure. Her AP wanted her to give birth to the baby and hand the baby over to him, but Rebecca was firm on abortion. She got angry at me for making matters worse and why I am poking my nose in her relationship. I called her slang again. Joyce thanked me but left with Rebecca. Joyce texted casually with me for 2 days until today. He called me saying I was bad for putting hands on AP and Rebecca has put reconciliation on hold until he gets rid of me. Joyce said it's time to end the friendship and he wants to put Rebecca before me. I called him ungrateful and some names and he did the same to me. He texted me he loves Rebecca above everyone and to consider this end of friendship and never call or text him. He then blocked me. I only wondered how much of a doormat he is and lacked spine, but was also sad for losing my friend. There goes our 23-year friendship down the drain. I hate Rebecca and am resenting her even more than after her affair. I wonder what wrong I do for standing for my friend and his support. This is my story. Thanks for listening. Story 3. COVID affair. My wife and I, both in our early 40s, have been married for almost 20 years. We have 3 wonderful children. When COVID happened, I went off the deep end, as did she. Not necessarily because we were afraid of the virus, but more because we were bored, pent up at home, and all of our very robust social lives suddenly ended. As time went on, we fell into a pattern of playing around with other people on the internet. This included sex cams with people, sex chat on the phone, sexting, etc. As background information, my wife was basically an OnlyFans girl back before it existed, and before we got married and had kids, and loves the thrill of camming with other guys. We had very clear boundaries set. Once COVID restrictions started getting lifted, we agreed to stop all sexual activities with outsiders. She suddenly became very distant from both me and the kids. To the point that she would send us away or have us go do stuff. She also changed her speech patterns and the way she spoke in a very bizarre way, that I could tell she was still talking to another guy. My son and I got caught driving to an event in a tornado, first I had been in my life. I called her and told her about it and she was very quick and dismissive. Learned later that she was spending the evening with her dude watching The World Is Not Enough. As if that isn't as ironic as it could be. Anyway, fast forward, she spent months with this guy. I really didn't care at some point, figured our relationship was over, but it got really frigging frustrating that she was ignoring the whole family. I stopped talking to her completely. For about 3 weeks. She sent me a message after the 3 weeks asking me to please end the no talking. I finally relented and said, "If you bring your phone down and hand it to me." She comes down from upstairs and starts to hand me her phone. I said, "Do I really need it? You were having an affair." She immediately admitted she was and said how sorry she was. 2 days later, I opened her laptop and saw a ton of missed calls from him, on Discord. Confronted her and she didn't say much, so I asked her to leave the house, which she did. After she was gone, I was in a moment of extreme depression. Her boyfriend, who started out online, revealed that he not only knew her name, address, kids' names, etc., but that she had sent him photos of the kids, talked about what school they went to, etc. It made me sick. Because she was at her parents' house, her mother became somewhat involved. I told her to have her daughter come get her stuff and that if she took her laptop, primary means of communication with him, or her wedding ring, I knew it was over. She ended up leaving them and apologizing profusely. After a few days, I sent her a list of ground rules if our relationship was going to last. Number 1 was honesty. I asked her to document exactly what happened during the affair. Over the next few months I experienced lie after lie after lie. That includes when I found out stuff she bought for him, including outfits with my credit card. How many times she called him, 8 to 9 times a day up to 1 hour per day while she was shuttling our kids upstairs. And how she had looked up hotels near his house and even planned to travel during one of our son's birthdays to see him. Every time one of her lies happened, it was like ripping a bandage off and bleeding for days. We went to counseling and it did not work. Bad counselor I would say, but I stayed with her. We eventually had some really good sex, kinky and hot, accidentally had another baby. Got very happy again. We were laying in bed and she started getting very defensive and asking me about a friend of mine, what I had texted to him, a picture of a cheerleader, and was generally acting like she didn't trust me at all. We had a nice fortnight as the Tay-Tay song goes of love, but in the end, that was when I realized it was over for good. Getting divorced now, it sucks. Story 4. Estranged bio sisters finally accepted that I want nothing to do with them as my dad is no more and birth giver is in the hospital. My birth giver had an affair in which my older and younger sister knew about it and hid it from my dad and me. Eventually I found out the reason why they never told my dad was because the birth giver's AP was buying them all the gifts they wanted for their silence. My dad found out eventually and it resulted in my dad disowning my sisters too for their betrayal. I too cut them off cause I lost any respect for both of them. Both sisters left with the birth giver and I picked my dad. Birth giver moved in with her AP with sisters but apparently he was a creep who was touching my sisters which resulted in a whole other shit. My dad didn't care and neither did I, even when birth giver called us about it. They wanted to come back but dad said no and told them to find somewhere else. Birth giver ended up being a drunk, going from boyfriend to boyfriend, some who were worse than her AP apparently. My dad married a great woman who became like a second mom to me, She too has a daughter as well that I treat like my own sister. Unfortunately, a year back my dad passed away peacefully in his sleep and it's been dark. At the time, Dad and I were staying at his home country for a while, so the funeral was just a very small affair. Dad, however, always told me he never wanted the birth giver or sisters to come to his funeral, much less know where he is buried. They found out months later and I got some angry voicemails from sisters cursing me for not telling them about Dad. He left them only $1 as per law in our country required for a will, and his assets were divided with my stepmom, my stepsister and me. I still live with stepmom and stepsis, although I will be moving out to my apartment in the coming month. Anyways, birth giver is sick and estranged sisters reach out to me to tell me to meet them because the birth giver keeps asking my name. My sisters say they miss me and want us to be a family again. I have blocked them, but they keep using different numbers or different accounts to message me on FB or my other social media to the point I want to report them to the police for harassment, but in my country there is no such thing as a restraining order. I answered their phone call one day and let them have it, saying I have no relation to them and that my stepmom and stepsis are my family. We were on FaceTime and my younger sister started crying, asking how long am I going to hate them. I told them I don't hate them, I simply don't care about them at all. My older sister was quiet and said she understand. She told me she was getting married soon and hope I could be walking her down the aisle, but since I will never want anything to do with them, she will take care of younger sister and birth giver. I told her that's your job and she ended the call. Younger sister sent me a text saying she will keep hoping I will change my mind one day, but I decided to just kill any hope in her by saying stepsister is the only sister I have, then shared a picture of a Christmas photo of my dad, stepmom, stepsis and me in matching sweatshirts, telling my younger sister that stepmom and stepsis is my family, so please stop reaching out to me. Birth giver called me to yell at me saying that I didn't need to be cruel to my younger sister, but I told her that I wasn't being cruel, I was just stating they aren't my family. Birth giver told me to lead my life and they will lead their lives. Also to not come to her funeral, to which I said she has nothing to worry about. I know I am an asshole, but truth to be told, I don't really care if that's what it takes to not talk to my sisters. I have a good job. My stepmom and stepsis never makes me feel like I am not part of their lives after Dad is gone. My friends from childhood told me recently that my younger sister opened some paid platforms like OnlyFans, but honestly I don't want to know, nor do I care to know what's going on in their life. I am just hoping that this time they actually follow through to never reach out to me. Update. You people, I am not asking for advice, nor this is an AITA, I just accept that while I am an asshole here, I don't really give a shit about it. My family and friends agree with me that what I have done is correct. Anyways, for the morons who were assuming a lot of baseless shit. Also, I don't acknowledge her as my mother, so I just use the word birth giver as a neutral term. Remove the stick lodged in your assholes over my preference to call her that here. 1. Dad divorced the birth giver when I was 21 and my younger sister was 18. They didn't tell Dad because they wanted the money and gifts from AP, who was buying them things my dad couldn't. We were a lower middle class family, so even things like going out for dinner was a once a while treat. As far I knew, birth giver was cheating on my dad for 2 years, but honestly I don't give a damn anymore. 2. My dad was a great guy, but once he cut someone out, that person is out of his life permanently, something I admire about him and followed in his principle. He didn't let the divorce drag him down, he worked harder than ever, always made sure he was there for me. He was a family man and he loved birth giver and my sisters till the betrayal, something she has always failed to see because sisters and her only saw him as an ATM. 3. Whatever happened to my sisters is on them, I have zero sympathy, could give zero fucks about you people who are saying I should be sympathetic to their plight. They still defended birth giver after what happened to them, even after she turned a blind eye to what he was doing to them. If family betrays you, they are not family and you should not care whatever happens to them after. 4. Yes, I still live with my stepmother and stepsister still. Stepmom is still grieving Dad's passing and my stepsister is graduating college and wants me to stay with them till she is able to find a job, so till I settle some ongoing matters, I am staying with them. The morons who are making disgusting jokes about 2 of them can go fuck themselves. 5. My life is going to be good and I will have no regrets if the birth giver and sister never talk to me till the day we die. I won't be going to their funerals and hopefully they have the common sense not to come to mine. Birth giver and older sister has acknowledged we are no longer family and will not try to reach out to me. Younger sister is slowly accepting the fact I want nothing to do with her. I made a family appreciation post the other day on my Facebook and Instagram with the caption, "Love my mother and sister," with a picture of stepmom and stepsis while we were out. Somehow there must be a dummy account from my sisters which they used to follow me, because my friend screenshotted my younger sisters did something similar with birth giver and older sister, with some caption about not needing any man in their lives cause their bond is strong or some other shit. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give a like, share it with someone, and subscribe for more stories that inspire, provoke, and connect us. Thank you.